Welcome back. We are live once again here on Johnny Torch Live. I accidentally hit the button a minute early, and so we're starting a minute earlier. But it's okay, you get an extra minute of coverage here on Johnny Torch Live. So, how have you been? How you doing? Snowing outside where I am. Let it snow, let it snow, let it snow. And the Christmas season is upon us. We've got decorating to do. Oh boy, been spending a lot of time decorating the past couple of days, and we still got more decorating to do, getting the tree up, hanging the stockings by the fire. Just all that great stuff that comes with Christmas. If you love Christmas music as much as I do, head on over to my website. You can find the link in the description below where you will find my Johnny's Jukebox for the month of December. Christmas music, and not just all the same stuff that you hear on the radio. I mean, we'll play a few of the favorites, a few of the standards, like we did the Christmas song by Nat King Cole to kick off the season. But we've got some stuff here that you probably don't hear too often on the radio, like we got a lost classic from Tom Jones singing "Winter Wonderland" that we just put up recently. We did a song from Seal singing "This Christmas," that classic. And I don't hear those on the radio too often, so we try to go for that nice blend of some stuff that you haven't heard before or haven't heard often enough, as well as the old staples, the old favorites. Not much in way of channel updates here, but I did want to point out that I am still having a hard time getting a lot of viewers, and it's very disheartening. I've always had a low number of viewers, but it's getting to the point where last week I only had 2 views, and so I am going back to the old computer now. This is my original laptop. It's on its way out. It's dilapidated, but I've tried so many ways to get the new laptop to do you know semi decent broadcasts, and it's not working. So what I decided to do was get a new battery for the old laptop, see if I can use it strictly for um, broadcasts, taped videos, because like I said, I can't do any scripted videos anymore because the old, laptop is not facilitating me a Windows Movie Maker Live or anything else for that matter. Judging by the quality of the stream, I don't think that this is sounding probably very professional either, but I'll listen to it on the replay, and if the live broadcast is still not good sound quality, I'm going to just go to a scripted live broadcast from now on. As I said before, it'll be like live on tape. I'll tape the show the way I do it now, where I just turn on the camera and do the whole show without edits, and I'll just upload it after the fact, so that it will be live for all intents and purposes, but it'll be uploaded after it's concluded, so there'll be no actual live interaction with my nearly non-existent audience. Okay, so with that out of the way, so, I've got my other laptop open here with my notes, and I don't know if that's going to be difficult for me to switch back and forth from this laptop to this laptop. So if there's any pauses, bear with me. Also, in lieu of doing a Torch News roundup tonight, I'm going to try to do that tomorrow. As I said, pending on how well this broadcast goes. If I have a very good broadcast here with good audio quality, I'll try to do another live broadcast with the Torch News roundup. Um, if it doesn't go so well, I'll just do a scripted Torch News roundup as I used to in the past. Hopefully this will work out. As I said, if I don't get the viewers here and things just continue to go down, I don't know what I'm going to do. Uh, Financially, it's not the best time for me to invest in a lot of software to be able to script videos again. But I don't want to abandon it entirely. So as I said, we're kind of at a crossroads. It's kind of difficult decision to make here, but we're going to get on with it. Okay, first off, we're going to start off with a little segment I like to call, you know it, say it with me now, kids, Johnny's NFL football picks of the week. See, I had a score of 11-5. That's pretty good, not bad. Bringing me up to a season tally of 122 victories and 70 defeats. All right, so this is big week 14 in the NFL, and we have Thursday night game. I'll admit I took the Saints and the Falcons one, so I'm behind the eight ball as we start week 14 here as it is. So are pretty good this season. I'm surprised the Falcons won that, to be honest with you, but Falcons are tough at home. I'm going with the Bills over the Colts on Sunday. Going with the Vikings over the Panthers. Although the Panthers, again, that's another team like the Falcons that are sort of lying under the radar this season. I'm going with the Bengals over the Bears, the Packers over the Browns, naturally. The 49ers over the Texans. They got their first win under Jimmy Garoppolo. Well, not their first win, I guess technically, but I mean they got a win with him being at the helm for the first time. Uh, I'm going with the Seahawks over the Jags. That's a tough one. Jags not doing too bad this season. I'm going with the Raiders over the Chiefs, although, Chiefs have fallen so far from grace. I don't know what's going to happen with that team. I don't know what's going to happen to Andy Reid this year because they started so promising, beating the Patriots. I think they just got too full themselves and they just, I don't know, imploded. I like the Raiders. I hope they're going to, bounce back because they've had a pretty lousy season too. The Lions over the Buccaneers. I'm going with the Titans over the Cardinals. I'm going with the Jets over the Broncos. That's another team. Unbelievable. The Broncos are terrible now. What are they, 3-9? I'm going with the Chargers over the Redskins. That's a toss-up game. That could easily go either way. I think the Chargers are a little bit better of a team. They got a little more fire in the belly, at least. But I could see that going either way. I'm going with the Eagles, another good team in the Rams, and the Eagles had a setback last week. But I think they've been so good this season. I can't see them not rebounding and taking it to the Rams. Good game, competitive game coming up there. Cowboys over the Giants. Yeah, Cowboys should be able to handle them. And the Steelers over the Ravens. Steelers very quietly getting things done. They came back against the Bengals last week. The Patriots over the Dolphins. Although, as I've said in the past, Patriots always have trouble with the Dolphins in Miami. So let's not, let's not look past them here. I think the Patriots should win that game, though. We also have the news that Roger Goodell has gotten a contract extension to be a commissioner in the NFL until 2024. Are you are you are you serious? Are you serious? Giving him a contract extension until 2024? Who votes him in? I don't know. Maybe that stymies me. You mean to tell me the owners in the NFL think that Roger Goodell has done such a great job? I mean, I know there's no love lost for him here in New England because he's basically, you know, been persecuting the Patriots and Tom Brady over the whole, video gate scandal or whatever you want to call it. And also the all that. But still, I mean, come on, the guy is incompetent when it comes to handling his players, handling the teams. It's just unfathomable how he got another extension to continue on here as commissioner of the NFL. But again, not going to belabor that one. So that's all of our segment here for another week in Johnny's NFL football picks of the week. Alrighty, so first, before we continue on here, we've got a little more house cleaning to do, or housekeeping to do, as they say. Uh, I want you to check out my Twitter page in the link below. There you will find my poll of the week, and we wrapped up our poll of the week for the past week. Last week's question was, would you be interested in seeing an MCU standalone Vision and Scarlet Witch movie starring Paul Bettany and Elizabeth Olsen? With 67 votes, which is pretty big for my polls, 61% said, "Oh heck yeah," to a Vision and Scarlet Witch solo movie, while 39% said, "That's a no." So that's a pretty strong majority, I'd say, that want to see a Vision and Scarlet Witch movie. I know I would. Sounds pretty interesting to me. They could do a lot of stuff with a Vision and Scarlet Witch movie. Of course, they could do a lot more if Magneto is in fact their father. Well, Scarlet Witch's father, not, but I meant Scarlet Witch and Quicksilver's father. Of course, Quicksilver's dead in this incarnation, so that's gonna be tough if they try to fold the existing Fox universe, the Marvel universe, because then you'll have those kind of conundrums, such as how do you reconcile there being two Scarlet Witches and two Quicksilvers, especially two Quicksilvers, because although they didn't really use their Scarlet Witch, I think she was a cameo as a child or something, and they were clearly not twins. Anyhow, that's an interesting subject for the Torch News Roundup, where we figure out, is that Fox deal close pretty soon, because a lot of people in the news have been speculating that this is all but a done deal. There's just the John Hancock got to be signed, and that's all it's left to close the deal. But all right, and also we have this week's poll of the week question. It's been a couple of days since it's already been up, so it's gotten quite a lot of votes. 110 votes so far. I want to thank Superhero Polls for retweeting it for me as well, because he's got a great Twitter page and he's closing in on 10,000 followers, I believe. So get over there and check out his page, his Twitter page. All right, the poll of the week question here we have for this week: of Warner Brothers DCEU's four proposed films set to star Margot Robbie, there's four of them that they're potentially going to make with Margot Robbie starring as Harley Quinn. Of these four, which would you most like to see? Suicide Squad 2, Gotham City Sirens, Joker Loves Harley, which that's in lieu of an actual title, but it's supposed to be one focusing on the relationship of Joker and Harley, and Harley Quinn, the solo movie, the one that's allegedly being produced by Margot Robbie herself. so, so far in fourth place we have Joker Loves Harley with 10%. I kind of feel like I might have prejudiced the poll a little bit by calling it that, because that's my ongoing joke that I call it Joker Loves Harley, like Joni loves Chachi. I don't think the movie's just going to be some kind of sappy love story. They're probably going to have some kind of conflict and a protagonist to go up against, something like that. That was actually my choice. I would like to see a Joker Loves Harley film, because I like to see them two together. That's what Harley's main purpose originally was to be the hench wench, so to speak, of Joker. And to have Harley without the Joker too often, I think dilutes the main purpose of the character, which is to, you know, just be a sucker in love for the Joker. And she was that in Suicide Squad, so I'm not saying they've taken her down the wrong path, but I think the further you get removed from that, you're going to lose the original intent of the character. Coming in at number 3 with 19% of the vote, the Harley Quinn solo movie. I guess it came off, it started off a little stronger than that, but it's fallen behind, I guess, because not too many people just want to see Harley. They want to see her interact with others, even though Margot Robbie said, if you watch last week's show, that it was going to involve her with her group of girls, quote unquote. In second place with 25% of the vote, Suicide Squad 2, another one that started off strong but kind of fell behind here. For the number one, with nearly half the vote, the number one choice seems to be Gotham City Sirens. Oh yeah, you want to see them babes, those Gotham City babes. That's what it's all about. You want to see Catwoman. You want to see Poison Ivy. You want to see. I don't know if Talia would be involved. She doesn't seem to hang with that kind of crowd. Potentially a Huntress, potentially Black Canary, potentially Batgirl. I don't know. Would it be a Birds of Prey type thing? I don't know. A lot of people are saying it could be like a Birds of Prey type thing, but I'd love to see it too. So don't get me wrong. I'd love to see all these movies get made and get made well, of course. But um, the one priority is going to be the Harley Quinn solo movie that Margot Robbie wants to produce, and the Suicide Squad 2 film that I believe is already in the works with a director. I can't remember his name right now off the top of my head. But yeah, that's the way it shakes up here. All right, so we will move on now to This Week in Comic Book TV. Excuse me while I take a little sip of water here. Again, apologies if my voice is still not up to snuff, because I still have this cough that is not going away. And it's gone away. It's not like it's getting worse or anything. I don't got no, serious illness, thank God. But apologies if my voice is not quite up to snuff. All right. So, as we begin this week in comic book television, needless to say, this week heralded the final episodes of the year of several shows, beginning with the CW shows. Made a lot of them sort of Christmas episodes as well. That usually the CW will do like a Christmas episode, and it'll be the season finale. But usually it's not this early in the season. Off on the CW shows as they aired. So let's start with Supergirl. Supergirl 3 mid-season finale. So with this one, go right off the bat and tell you my episode of the week. For me, this was my episode of the week. This was just a great episode, particularly since I haven't thought Supergirl has been that great this season, but they really did get the focus right in this episode, and none of this SJW crap really interfered. Maybe a little bit, but we'll get into that in a second. Okay, so Rain is back, and she doesn't remember being gone. Remember, she took her little trip out to the desert to the what was it, the Fortress of Sanctuary? I think that's what they called it. And she came back home, and she didn't remember ever leaving. And Ruby was like, "What?" Um, All right, so meanwhile, back at the DEO, Saturn Girl is just too adorable, and she's trying to make friends with Supergirl, and she says that she's been girl to become a superhero, and they mention the Legion of Superheroes attractions for the next episode. It's titled Legion of Superheroes, and we're going to actually see the Legion to some extent. We had the traditional Supergirl Christmas party. Well, excuse me, holiday party, because I don't think you can use the term Christmas party anymore in these SJW times. Of course, we say it here on Johnnie Torch Live. Um, we had the Martian Manhunter. The Martian Manhunter likes Jingle Bell Rock. That's his favorite. That's his favorite song. That's that was pretty funny. Manhunter's dad says Life Day, a little Star Wars tie-in that Wynn picked up on. That was pretty funny. Um, there was a nice moment there between Alina and Sam and Kara, and it just goes to show you. I mean, I love when there's this kind of foreshadowing. I love that when it's the calm before the storm. It's the Anakin Skywalker meet Obi-Wan Kenobi. You know what I mean? It's like you just get that little sense that, oh yeah, these guys are so close, or they're going to be close, but inevitably something's going to happen to tear all three of them apart from each other. They're all going to go their separate ways, and they're all going to be at each other's throats. Um, Rain, of course, Samantha, who is going to become, and she does become Rain in this episode, and is going to be the downfall of Supergirl, as we'll see. But Lena, I think, also is going to be destined to be a villain here. I don't think they can keep them friends too long because it just seems to be something that they're building up that it's going to hit the fan eventually. We had the female agent back. I don't remember her name, but she doubles in both Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. and Supergirl. I don't think she's been in Supergirl all the season. I know she hasn't been in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. because they're now in space. Which, by the way, we're not doing this week's Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. On the show because I didn't get a chance to see it. I could have probably tried to watch it before the show, but it's just, I got too much to do today as it is. So let's do a double episode of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. next week because we're not going to have anything really else to talk about in this week in comic book television because next week is a sparse week. We've only got Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. and the season finale of The Gifted. So, we'll have a little something else to talk about next week. All right, getting back to this. Um, Kara talks to her mom in the fortress there, or wherever it was, but then she talks to her and she says the 28 known galaxies. I thought that was a nice tribute to the Reeve series again, as usual. They always try to, do a little tribute to that, I think, in every episode, the Donner Superman, Reeve Superman films. Um, we caught another confrontation between Lena taking Jimmy with her in front of Morgan Edge, where they call him a Don Johnson wannabe. I still say the guy is a dead ringer for George Clooney. I don't know, nobody has used that one yet, but that's the one that works for me. He's a George Clooney knockoff. Adrian Pasteur, he's great to me. That's what I've always called him. He's a great actor, but he's the bargain basement George Clooney in your TV show. You go to Adrian Pasteur. And it's not an insult, of course. That's just his niche, is playing that kind of character. And I'm not crazy about what they're doing with Morgan Edge this season. He's sort of like a slimy weasel that, they're trying to, the powerful white man type stereotype. And I don't know. It's just they're not doing anything with him. They're not doing anything constructive with him. It's just this continual butting of heads with him and Lena. So I don't know. I just hope in the next season when they continue on with this after the mid-season finale, they'll do something constructive with the character and make him hopefully make his presence a little more strong. Make his role bear a little more fruit, so to speak. So Kara and Monel have a bar, and a lot of people don't like this carrying on of Kara with she's eating her heart out over Monel. But this is basically the best way that it could have gone down because they're not going to saddle her with a boyfriend. For some reason, I guess it's the feminist side where you can't saddle her with a boyfriend and you can saddle the Flash and Arrow with wives, but you can't saddle a romance on Supergirl for too long. Go by that they don't saddle the hero with a romance for too long, but at least they're keeping to that with Supergirl and they're going to try to do the graceful thing and give him the graceful exit where he's already married and you can't possibly ask him to give up his wife, who's, a nice enough person from what we know. And she also tries to confront Kara here in the bar and tries to, smooth things over because she looks up to Kara. She looks up to Supergirl, so she doesn't want to see her as an adversary, but she knows that they had something between them in the past. So, this subplot I think is not going to be for too much longer, but like I said, a lot of people are kind of grimacing at it, but this is the way it had to go down. You had to have Kara go through this emotional turmoil in order to get to where she is at the end of this episode. And we'll get to that in just a minute. But and then you had to have her step away from Mon-El for some reason. Couldn't have had them get married and have her be saddled with a husband. It just with Clark Kent. I mean, it's a little bit easier there because Lois is such an iconic character that she's, obviously we all love Lois. Um, but you really don't want to see him saddled with a wife, and it's the same way with all the characters that they all just do it. So there's nothing really going to stop them from doing it on the CW because that's where the relationship stuff is their forte. All right, so Kara goes back to the Rao heretic in jail. I can't remember his name, Corrigan or something, and I'm up for he's going to be this guy. I guess that's going to keep tipping her off to this is the prophecy and this is what's supposed to happen and this is why you're going to have trouble with this rain person because you know she's coming for you. And I wasn't crazy about the fact that Kara says the devil because well, I mean, I guess this fanatic guy is calling her the devil. Maybe she's talking about on Krypton there isn't. I don't know, but that's another one of those type of broad statements. Like I didn't like Jimmy Olsen a couple of weeks ago saying prayer usually doesn't work. You can tell that there's like a very SJW centric presence in the writing of this show, and that's what's always held it back. And I think really the only way to let that go is if they go back to the just do the comic book shows, just do the comic book version of Supergirl from the comics. Don't try to fit in with the feminist agenda and all this. Um, So we've got Jimmy paired up with Lana for most of this episode, and they're sort of building to the romance. Lena takes out the thug with his I mean, Jimmy takes out the thug with his shield to protect Alina. But we still don't see Guardian, and I don't know why they're still shying away from Guardian. I think that's what they should be doing with Jimmy instead of saddling him with a romance plot. Because if they were going to do that, why didn't they do Lucy Lane? I guess maybe they couldn't afford, what was it, Jenna Dwan Tatum? I don't know. I didn't think she would be that expensive to keep on the show, but and so they're now saddling him with a non-comic book romance. Um, so he takes out the street gang, and again, I like the scenes of Ruby and Sam. I really like that. I mean, it's going to be really heart wrenching when you see what's going to happen here because at the end of the episode, we'll just jump ahead for a second, but Ruby comes down on Christmas, and apparently Rain is completely taken over Sam, where she's not even going back to her original persona anymore. For that, I mean, I feel bad for Ruby. Is she going to lose her mom, or is this going to be one of those things where it's only going to be because of Ruby that Sam is going to come back? The rumor that is going around that seems to be pretty, I think has some weight to it is, and if you don't want to hear rumors, I guess tune out for about 15 seconds, but that Alex is going to adopt Ruby after Rain/Samantha dies at the end of the season, thus giving Alex the child that she could never have with Maggie, and give Ruby the mother she needs because obviously Rain has like completely taken over Samantha. That's an interesting way to look at it. That might be okay. That way you've got the single mom that I'm sure that they want to show on this show, as they have with Sam and Ruby. They'll continue on with Alex and Ruby. That could be it. They probably don't want to jump Alex right back into another lesbian relationship, even though they kind of did that with Sarah over in the crossover. But whatever. I mean, I don't know. That's not really the main concern of mine, but it'll be interesting either way. All right, we have the rain shirt rip. I thought that was great. You have the iconic shirt rip, but done with a dark opposite. Like I said, I'm always a sucker for the dark opposite, and I think it was handled very well here. Um, I think the rain costume is actually pretty good. Um, it's a little generic, but I like the mask. I like the makeup and stuff. It doesn't really seem like the same actress. It doesn't look like the Samantha actress. Of course it is. Odette Annabelle, I believe is her name. But it looks very different. And that was really cool, I thought. So Rain goes after Morgan Edge, and Kara burns the Superman symbol or the House of L symbol into the roof of Catco and calls her out. I love that. Now, this is what I mean about she's not really in the right frame of mind now. She has it out with Mon-El at the very end before she meets up with Rain for this final showdown. She has it out with Mon-El, and she's emotionally distraught and not really able to deal. And that's why this confrontation goes very, very bad for her. Brutal beatdown, like the likes of which you don't see too often. This was basically a Rocky 3 fight. This is basically what it was. I mean, like Rocky, went in with Mickey as his main concern, wasn't really focused on the task, and he got his butt handed to him. And same thing happens here basically with Supergirl. She is just overconfident, thinking that she can get in there and do it and take out Rain, but she's too emotionally distraught to really have her head in the game. And I love that. Now, I complained about the lack of action and a challenge for Supergirl, but they more than made up for it here. This was just like almost a theatrical version fight. I mean, this was very theatrical, made to be on the big screen. Um, they had the fight during the Christmas party, rocking around the Christmas tree. That was pretty funny. Um, then they took it to the streets in like a Superman 2-esque showdown on the streets of National City. And it ends in brutal fashion with Kara getting a severe beatdown and getting rushed to the hospital in shades of Superman Returns. So You know, where do they go from here? I don't know. This is just gonna put Supergirl out of commission for a couple of episodes, or is she gonna bounce back really fast? Either way you look at it, Rain is going to reign her reign of terror on National City until it is over. And of course, we also have sort of a rushed kiss between Jimmy and Lena. Also want to mention that they didn't seem to worry about going there in a hurry. Like I said, I don't have no real interest in Jimmy and Lena and that subplot, but you know, whatever, whatever. But yeah, that was a great brutal beatdown, and it was just great to see that much action on the show. It's like we earned it. It felt like Superman 2 in that respect too. Like we didn't get a whole lot of action in Superman 2. He saves a kid from falling off the Niagara Falls. He throws the elevator in space. That's all he does for like the first hour and 15 minutes of the movie. And it's the same thing here. This season has been very dry and dull of action. She's been taking on challenges that are way beneath her pay grade, sort of like George Reeves in the Superman Adventures of Superman series. Not to denigrate that, of course, but I mean, you had him basically taking on a couple of thugs who would shoot at him at the end of the episode, and then he would just like toss them aside. End of story. And that's kind of what Supergirl's been doing this season. So I'm glad to have finally seen her get a challenge in Rain. All right, so I am going to give this episode 4.5 stars out of 5. For a mid-season finale, I thought it was great. 4.5 stars out of 5. Give it an A minus. Like I said, there's a couple of things with the Fanatic that I didn't like, but overall, great mid-season finale. Can't wait to see what happens next. Just greatly acted and just great action. To seeing where they go with the storyline next, because they could really do some great things with Supergirl this season. Should they continue going into that vein of pure comics, four-color comics adventure? Okay, you're listening to Johnny Torch Live, episode number 37. For joining me. Um, Already got a half hour in the books, but we're barely halfway through, so I better Flash. The Flash, of course, is another Christmas-themed episode. Um, there you see Wells and Cisco decorating the Christmas tree. This one was probably I don't want to say the least. I'd say Arrow had the least Christmas spirit, but this one, the Christmas spirit seemed to be a and so we have DeVoe getting worse, and he has to accelerate his plans. Meanwhile, it was kind of funny. The guys were joking they like hanging with Frost more than Caitlin. So I'm glad to see that she's two different people still. That they're not making her sort of Caitlin with Frost's powers. It's better that they have them be two distinct personalities. And that's kind of like Ralph Dibny is like ribbing her about that Frost is actually more fun and stuff. I thought that was cool. I thought that was funny. I believe her name is Amunet Black. I can never pronounce her first name. Amunet Black. Katie Sackhoff, anyway, returns to be the subplot villain in this one. And she kidnaps Kate and shuts down her powers. And she wants Kate to save her latest victim named Dominic. Um, because he has some kind of powers she needs that she's going to want to sell him on the black market. Meanwhile, we have DeVoe capturing the Flash. Harry and Joe confront DeVoe, and pretty much comes to nothing. Oh, let's see. Harry decides to force Iris to make the tough call because they can't stretch their resources to Flash and Caitlin. This was interesting because it sort of like puts Iris on the spot. They want to try to toughen up her character. They still want to give her something to do. Give her a reason for being the leader, quote unquote, of the Flash, of Team Flash. I don't know why the Flash himself is not the leader of Team Flash. I think they got this idea that little Flashpoint Paradox brief episode where she was in charge of Kid Flash, that kind of gave them the bee in their bonnet to make her the head of Team Flash, that she was going to be this great delegator of responsibilities. And Harry calls her on it here, saying, she's not that good of a delegator of responsibilities. And what qualifies her for being a delegator of responsibilities? I still don't understand this. She was a reporter. They should go back to making her a reporter instead of making her be this, team leader. I mean, that's like being coach of a little league team. I mean, do they really need her? I mean, they're just going to do what they do. I don't know. I don't get it. But anyway, that's sort of like just they're trying to give Iris relevance in the show, and I guess that's, like I said, I think it's down to Candace Patton wanting, to not be completely a team Flash, because she's basically removed from the team. There's nothing really that she brings to the table because she has no scientific leanings. She doesn't have the detective aspect like Joe has. There's really nothing for her to do other than now she's delegating responsibilities. I don't know. Mm. All right, so she decides to put all their resources into finding Caitlin because Barry can basically take care of himself, which he does, which we'll get to that in a second. But so Vibe and go after Caitlin and Dominic. They defeat Black, but they let her go again. Now I didn't understand this at all. This is, I think, the second time that Amnet Black has gotten away. It's like, why are they so afraid to confront her and try to capture her? I mean, she's basically a low rent Magneto. She's basically like a low rent Polaris. And they're treating her like Galactus. Like they can't, like, I mean, this is not Eobard Thawne, people. This is Amnet Black. This is not really a great challenge. She throws like these metal darts at you, and if you're fast enough or if you can freeze them, you shouldn't have any problem. Because of course, they released Frost's powers were freed at the end of this year. Anyway, Flash escapes his prison and he has a very impressive high-speed chase far above Central City. The show has been more ambitious this year with its action set pieces, saved from a fall in the river by Cisco's flotation device in the suit, which was a funny little thing. I didn't mind that, but I thought he said that he took out all the devices because that was sort of like a joke about, the Iron Man suit has so many things and the Flash suit really doesn't need it. But anyway, so Ralph decorates the West annual Christmas party. He decorates the home because Joe didn't get a chance to do it this year. Dominic comes and invites himself in because Wally's not around. He's doing whatever Wally does. But Dominic is really the thinker, as the thinker had captured Dominic. Well, actually, Amnet Black, I think, captured Dominic again, and she sold him to the thinker, who put his brain, metaphysically speaking, into Dominic's cranium. So Barry gets a call and goes back home only to find DeVoe's dead body, and he gets framed for his murder by the police showing up at his door. He chooses not to run, not sure why, but this was foretold back at the end of season 1, where we saw the singularity, where Barry was running through it, and Barry was sitting there in prison. And ironically, Barry's framed much like his dad was, circumstantial evidence. And so they had this storyline in the works since the first season. I I think this was probably the dumbest thing that they have ever done in The Flash, and you might think they've done a few dumb things in the past, but this is probably the dumbest thing. All right, now the last episode, not counting the crossover, but the last episode with the Thinker's origin, Barry lost all frame of common sense. Let's put it that way. To you know, push the envelope when it came to investigating DeVoe. And then what happens is he gets restraining order against him, and he still goes and confronts DeVoe. And then when he goes to his home and he finds a dead body on the ground, instead of removing the planted evidence and not allowing the supervillain to frame him, thus give him nothing but difficulty, he decides to stand there like a cigar store Indian, I Native American, excuse me, and let the police arrest him. Why? Because Iris would be more proud of him if he stood there and took the fall rather than getting away and clearing his name before it was even besmirched, catching DeVoe instead of rotting behind prison bars. It just felt so contrived that they wanted to get Barry in prison, but they didn't give us a decent, legitimate reason for him getting caught in a frame up. So that's why this one didn't work as well for me. Um, I'm gonna give this one 4 stars out of 5. That's 4 stars out of 5. Giving it a B minus. It was pretty fun and enjoyable for what it was, but the setup was not really that great. I'm not looking forward to seeing this whole prison thing. But Killer Frost again was pretty lame. maybe I'm overrating this one. Maybe it deserves a little less, but I remember being a little bit more enjoying of it um when I was watching it. Looking back at it now, it seems a little generous to give it a 4, but I'll stick with what I said. I'll give it 4 stars out of 5 and a B minus. Okay, so this is the mid-season of the Flash. Oh, I also wanted to mention the Flash, the coming attractions. You recognize that district attorney, don't you? I guess Cecile is the district attorney, or is she the assistant district attorney? Because the one that's going to be prosecuting the case looks like it's going to be Mark Valley. Now he's no stranger to doing, playing lawyers, because I think he played lawyers on that show with Kathy Bates, Merrill's Law or something. I don't know what it was called. It existed for like 2 seasons and then went nowhere. But of course, he's one of my favorite actors, and Mark Valley was the original. Well, not the original, because Rick Springfield had a show, but I'm saying before the CW DCEU really took over, he was the original Human Target, and I was always hoping they'd fold him back into the fold as the Human Target. And it feels like such a waste that the Human Target. So I know they're not going to give him the Human Target again, but they could have given him a much better character than just some slick lawyer. He deserves to get a good role. He's basically what John Wesley Shipp is to the Flash. He is to the Human Target. Now, if you don't want to make him the Human Target, then at least give him something of worth. Give him an older character, a superhero character. And he's not that old. I mean, come on. By CW standards, he's ancient. He's what, 48 or something? But either way you look at it, I feel like they've wasted Mark Valley in the CW universe now, and I don't think we'll ever get him to play a real decent hero character like I hope he was going to play all this time. I hoped he was going to play a good, decent superhero character in the CW DC universe, and they haven't done it here. Big waste. Big waste. Really disappointing. Really disappointing. We will move on now to the. There's Legends of Tomorrow. Um, I didn't like this one very much. Kind of disappointing to me. Um, that's a small picture, but I couldn't find anything else. All right, so this was it was all right at the beginning though. We had young Stein transported to North America during his Hanukkah shopping back in 1992, which caused time abnormality. The Vikings, led by Leif Erikson, took his Elmo-esque toy as a god. Beto, a little blue stuffed animal. So that's the overall presence here. Um, so in the aftermath of Stein's death, you can tell I'm a little off the beam. I think I've made more mistakes in this week's episode. That's why it should have been a short episode and I didn't do the Torch News Roundup too. But anyway, in the aftermath of Snart's Earth X's Snart has joined the crew. I still don't really understand that. He's sort of like at the end of the crisis on Earth X, oh, these people need me. I'm going to go with them for a while, but I'll be back to the Ray, his gay boyfriend. So Snart inexplicably Snart inexplicably joins the Wave Rider crew and dispenses therapy with a Stein puppet. I don't really get this. Now I know there was a character named Citizen Cold um in the comics or whatever. They trying to do something like that here. I don't know, but it just fell flat for me. I mean, he's trying to talk to them with a puppet and trying to get them to betray their feelings, and I frankly didn't get it, and then starts having a strange fixation on getting Mick to stop drinking. Now you have a whole bunch of the crew of the Wave Rider, and they just sort of take it for granted that he just goes out and drinks 15 bottles of beer a day, and nobody ever stops him, and it never really affects him. But Snart makes this his life's mission to keep him from drinking anymore. So he keeps showing up every other scene, telling Mickey has a problem. So the Legends get help from uh, Agent Sharp. That's her name. Yeah. Um, so they go disguised as Vikings, and Agent Sharp goes along with them. Okay. So Mick is caught trying to steal Bebo back, and they try to burn him at the stake, and Snart steps in using his cold gun. Eventually, during the melee, Mick roasts Bebo, leading the Vikings to return home, only to be stopped by Dark, who's pretending to be Odin, complete with Thor's long blonde hair and a Viking helmet. That was pretty funny, seeing him try to impersonate Thor, the DC version of Thor. So the Time Bureau won't help Sarah, and Sharp backs out. Not sure why, since it's a pretty big mess. You would think they need this to be resolved because celebrating Odin instead of Christmas. We'll get to that in a second because I didn't like that at all. Um, so they trick the Vikings with the atom inside of a Bebo doll, telling them Jesus is the one true God. Fine, because that's what they needed to do in order for the Vikings to leave and continue to be Christian. But I don't understand really what they're trying to do here because they're trying to make it that whatever the Vikings believed was whatever America at large was going to believe. Now that doesn't really seem to make sense to me because all right, the Vikings go over to Norway or whatever, and they Christianize Norway maybe or so on and so forth. But that really doesn't have a knock-on effect on once they've left North America. That doesn't have a knock-on effect of what the Pilgrims and Columbus and all the other travelers that came to the New World what they believed. So they're trying to make it seem like whatever the Vikings believed was what we were going to believe today as a society, whether it was Bebo, whether it was Odin, or whether it was Jesus. And that is very disrespectful, I think, to Jesus. Speaking of disrespectful, we'll get to this next line in a minute where the Atom tells the Vikings Jesus is the one true God, but they seem overly embarrassed in having to admit this, so they have to throw in evolution is true and global warming is true just to keep their SJW cred. I don't really like how they're pretty much haphazardly saying whatever the Vikings believe is what would predominate would be the predominant belief in the world. So, it's like you couldn't just leave it at that. I mean, they're not even like trying to appeal to other religions and stuff. They're not trying to say, because they knew they had to stick with Jesus is the one true God in order to get the Vikings to accept him. So they couldn't say, Jesus is the one true God unless you're Jewish or unless you're Muslim or unless you're Hindu or no, they at least kept it straight, I guess, by saying that Jesus is the one true God as he is. But we have to throw in a sop to the atheists that wouldn't allow them to accept that without some kind of corny ri- relig- relig- ridiculous dialogue that was completely atheistic, such as, that means evolution is still true. Well, no, that's debatable. That's not something that needed to be said to the Vikings. It's embarrassing, quite frankly. Also saying that the global warming is true. Again, debatable. That is not something that you can equate with Jesus being the true God. Also, they say science is true, but science is true only in as much as it can be proven. There's a lot of theories that are not provable that a lot of scientists, theorists, and atheists want to cling to that aren't quite proven. And this whole thing was pretty much a mess. And even though I think last year they handled the Holy Lance the Spear of Destiny. I thought they handled that pretty well when they had to deal with Christian themes, even though they didn't really, go all aboard with it and try to act as respectful to it as they could. They didn't disrespect it. I think they disrespected Christianity here, and I found it very disappointing. Okay, so also we have young Stein in the Wave Rider, and Jax volunteers to take him. Sarah doesn't want to let Jax take him because she's afraid he's going to try to stop him from, and thus ruining the timeline even more. Um, Isis is the very, you know, um, flippant with the rules of time. She already did that with the Helm of Troy. So she says, "Well, go ahead and just do what you can and take him back." So Jax takes him back, and he gives Stein a letter, Back to the Future style, telling him not to open it, you know, until 2017 because this is 1992. Now he's surprised when the timeline is unchanged, and he goes back to confront young Martin, who tells him he burned the letter, never reading it, and tells him much the same things the elder Stein said. And so this young kid, by the way, this kid that plays young Stein, he's very good. He plays Stein basically the same as Victor Garber, except younger. And he sounded very much like the Victor Garber Stein. He sounded like he was saying things that the Victor Garber Stein would say. So, meanwhile, Dark's daughter is overpowered by heat wave and cold, and Dark carries her off, thus frustrating his plan as Odin to the Vikings. And they go off, of course, and return to their native lands. Sarah uncovers Mollusk, and surprise, surprise, Rip was right. He's dangerous. Too bad you didn't listen sooner. Too bad you didn't listen when Rip was trying to tell you to your face when he knew all along all this time travel stuff is like second nature to him. Did anybody believe him on the Wave Rider? No. We're supposed to sympathize with the Wave Rider crew, and they're just like a bunch of idiots. They even say it in the beginning, where, they're a bunch of idiots that, muss up the time stream and stuff. But why are we supposedly siding with them for? We know that they don't know from a hole in the ground anything about time and stuff like that. And it just is they're treating Rip so disrespectfully in this show. And he was the lead, the star of this show for the longest time. And I don't know. I think they just sacrificed a lot when they got rid of Rip. And now they're like, oh, wow, he was right. Maybe we should go get him back out of prison because he's in prison now because he was trying desperately to get rid of Mollusk. Now Sarah sees him and gets scared. Now let's get rid of Mollusk again. Come on, will ya? Listen to the man the first time in the first place. You wouldn't have this trouble. All right. So they still got that sharp and sour romance on the slow burner. It's on a simmer because Sarah has to jump on any woman that crosses her path, and of course, Sharp is a woman that's a woman or whatever that she's in charge. She's a high executive, so to speak, and so that's probably going to be the next thing. I don't think they want to give Sarah a continuous romance and have her fall into the trap that Alex has been forced to deal with for the past 2 seasons, but you know, she's gonna have a fling. We all know she's gonna have a fling with Sharp, but they forgot that Sarah's bi to begin with, so there's not much you can do. All right, so now Jax wants to leave, and this is the big, finish that we all kind of should have seen coming. He doesn't want to stay on the Wave Rider as the mechanic, which I don't know who they're gonna have as a mechanic now because I guess maybe Ray will take over that role. I don't know. And so Sarah and the team send Jax off at a Christmas party, which was also a lot of fun. Well, a holiday party, as I'm sure they're saying on the CW. It's sad to see him go. I mean, I guess they just don't know what to do with him without Stein. I thought they would just give him the Firestorm Matrix on his own, maybe, because they already invested and you need to have two people. I thought maybe they would join him with someone else like Stein did because they had to find someone to join with Stein over on the Flash in order to make him survive this whole thing and let there be a firestorm in the future going forward. I think they very easily could have joined him with young Martin, and that was before they had this whole thing about Lily and all that. But still, have him join with young Martin would have been fine. Also, you could have had him join with Ronnie Raymond. Ronnie Raymond back again. Maybe a different Earth's Ronnie Raymond. Maybe a different timeline's Ronnie Raymond. You never know. They could have done a lot of different things, but instead they just decided to give Fran's drama his walking papers, which is sad because, like I said, I like the character, but I mean, I guess there's nothing for him to do on the show because they barely used him as Firestorm as it was. And I think they're just using this as an excuse to try to bounce him, into that good night because they really can't afford to keep using those Firestorm powers and realizing them on the CW on the show all the time because they just haven't done it so far. It was basically always a contrived reason to keep him and Stein apart so they couldn't be Firestorm. And then, every once in a while they would throw Firestorm in there to show, yeah, he still exists. But all right, so at the very end, of course, we got the tease of John Constantine. I don't know why he's showing up, but he is. Um, as I said before, I'm not a big fan of Constantine. I mean, I don't like demons and crap. I don't really need that kind of stuff on the show. People are saying maybe he might be a replacement for Jax. I welcome Matt Ryan. I like him as a character. I like him as an actor. I wish he was more Doctor Strange and less The Exorcist. You know what I mean? I like the mumbo jumbo aspects of his character, but still, that it's like heaven and hell, and I don't really dig that stuff. So I welcome his return, but I just don't know how long he's gonna last, and if he should be a member of the crew at this point. Maybe just bouncing him once in a while in and out would be better. I don't know. We'll see. All right, I'm giving this episode of Legends of Tomorrow 2 stars out of 5. Yeah, I'm giving it 2 stars out of 5. I was going between 2 and 2.5, but I think I'm going to go 2 stars. All right, so that is another one down. Oh, we've got so much more to go. I'm never going to be able to get this show done for another hour. All right, let's get on to Arrow. And I have to say, Arrow, I really liked it this week. Got my episode of the week seal of approval. But I think Supergirl was just a little bit better. Just a little. All right, so the episode picks up where the Ollie Felicity wedding left off. They have a wedding reception, and I'm glad they did this because I was worried they were going to gloss over it. Though, who am I kidding? Like they're going to gloss over the illicit marriage after all this time. But pretty much pulled all the stops. They brought back Felicity's mom and dad, which was they were a welcome addition. I mean, I don't like the fact that they sort of just acted like, oh, we can't like ever bring them back now. Just bring them back like you did this episode. Just a short little thing. Just let them interact for a few minutes and that's it. You don't have to let them drag through the whole episode. Then we had Quentin and Felicity's mom have a moment. Because remember that Quentin and Donna, they were dating for a while. And that was a nice moment. I thought Quentin had a lot of good moments in this episode. I thought this was really Quentin's episode. And I thought that was nice. All right, then we had Curtis getting drunk throughout the wedding. I think they were supposed to be trying to play that for laughs, but to be honest with you, I thought that was very sad. Maybe that's what they were going for too. I don't know, but I thought it was sad because I honestly haven't liked Curtis as a character. I've been saying all along, if you're going to get rid of anybody on the show, get rid of Curtis because he's redundant. He's basically a Felicity substitute. But basically, what they did was this season they actually made me care about Curtis, and he's they addressed the two things that I had a problem with Curtis. The first one was like I said, that he basically was there to fill in for Felicity when Felicity was doing all her drama that she was going through any given moment of the day, whether she was paralyzed or whether she was breaking up with Oliver and on the outs with Oliver. He would just step in and do the same Felicity routine, crack some jokes, run the computer and fix up whatever needed to be fixed up in the IT department. And now they have him partnered with Felicity, where they do things together, and it seems like you know he's a member of the team now and not just a replacement. So I think that's good. They also have it where I used to hate the second thing I used to hate was that he was completely useless in a fight. There was no need for him to be out in the field. He should have just stood behind the computer all the time. But now they got him with the T spheres. It kind of makes up a little bit for that lack of, being able to fight and be in the field. Um, so yeah, so they improved Curtis, I think, this season. If they did anything right this season, was that Quentin gives Ollie his dad's watch. That was a nice scene again from Quentin. A lot of great moments there with him in this episode. Um, Dinah is still texting the vigilante. That was interesting. At Last is their song sung by Etta James. That seemed appropriate, huh? Because they strung this out for like 4 seasons, probably, that they've done the Will They Won't They with Elicity. They could have done it longer, I think. Someone on the team will rat Ollie out on the stand. That's what basically this whole episode was about. That was the thrust of it, which was a lot of fun. I'm glad they mentioned Evelyn Sharp, Artemis, because this is a different situation. This is not like that. They had betrayals in the past. They had the team split up in the past, but this is the first time I think the team ever imploded. And I found it very believable that the team would implode like that because it was, a lack of trust. A lack of trust on the part of all of them. What happens is Oliver wants to go off and do something else, and they're doing that right now. Making Diggle the Arrow. He wants to go off and live happily ever after. But they're not doing that here. What they're doing is the team implodes because they can't trust each other anymore. Um, Now Black Siren is the villain in this one here. Um, she had a cool exchange with Thea. I thought that was cool. She's like, what did she say? She's like, I'm gonna send you back to the hospital for good or something. I forget what she said, but it was funny, and it had some of that wit that was good. And so she knocks out Thea, who's basically just coming out of the hospital, and she knocks her out and kidnaps Quentin. Meanwhile, Dinah confronts Vince, aka Vigilante, and tells him off, and tells him that she's out. She doesn't want anything to do with him anymore. But the team finds out because they're the team being Diggle, Felicity, and Green Arrow. They're monitoring all the members of the team, seeing if any of them you know, uh, will slip up. Caden James wants to bargain with Oliver for Quentin's life. Team Arrow, sans Dinah, heists the amplifier jewel. I mean, the amplifier device that James wants. They didn't feel like they could trust Dinah, so they leave her out of that first mission. Now, eventually, after that, Oliver confronts Dinah about Vince, thinking she's the traitor, but Renee steps up. I was afraid of that. Now, I thought it was going to be Renee, and I said, I really don't want it to be Renee because I don't really care about Curtis, but then again, it's not going to be him because that's just not like him. Dinah doesn't seem to be the type to be. I knew it was going to be. I knew it was going to be Renee, but at least they gave him a noble reason because Watson is threatening him with his daughter that he's not going to see his daughter anymore, and he's going to go to jail because that Oliver is the Arrow. Now, frankly, I'm tired of this whole thing with Watson, but this does make sense. This is not too hastily thrown together. There's a nice scene between Quentin and Black Siren. That's again some good Quentin scenes here. He gets to talk with Black Siren, and she remembers her father, and it's not too different from the relationship that Quentin had with Laurel. Okay, now they have a nice moment here where Oliver and Thea talk about what Renee's done, and that Renee was somewhat justified because Ollie would have done the same thing to protect William. But that doesn't stop Oliver later on from firing Renee. You're fired. All right, but first off, let's get to the big finish here. Thea convinces Oliver to get the whole team together, trust each other for one night, and see what you can take from there. So pawn off the amplifier on him after Oliver sabotaged it, and to get Quentin. Now, James smells that the amplifier is bogus, and he tells Black Siren to kill Quentin, but she lets him go. Now, is this a softening of Black Siren? Is this like I said they were going to try to put her Canary's place as the new Black Canary? I hope not, because I really like Dinah. I really love Juliana Harkavy, I believe is her name, in this role. She's a favorite of mine, and I think she played these emotions perfectly in this episode. Now, meanwhile, there was another great action scene here with the Green Arrow. I like the way he drops his bow and it shoots off little explosives. That was great. And Black Canary is fighting. Meanwhile, um, Renee leaves his post to try to find Quentin. So back at the ranch, Oliver fires Renee for leaving his post, but it feels like a severe overreaction. Now, is this something that Oliver's doing just to, sort of suss out the situation? Does he have a plan with this, or is this just him acting impulsive? I prefer to hope it's the former, although I'm guessing it's probably the latter. Um, Black Canary can't even deal with Oliver not trusting her, and she's out, which was disappointing to me. Curtis has a delayed reaction, quits over the spying on him the next day, so he can't really jibe with it either, and he's out. Seems a bit of a contrivance to have the team implode, but it works. Hopefully, the team comes back together in the end. Meanwhile, Dinah is, Dinah is pushed back into the arms of Vigilante, both figuratively and literally, I'm sure. Renee has his daughter, and apparently James has been working with Vigilante and Anatoly and Richard Dragon and Crazy Harry, all to mastermind a plot to get the team split up. So, like I said, they're building up to something nice here on Arrow. They finally got Oliver back in the costume. Diggle's not in the costume, thank God. Put Diggle back in the Spartan costume. They got the team imploding. I'm sure they're going to come back eventually. They show in the coming attractions what's going to happen next week. I mean, not next week, next season. The um, the B team Arrow, with Black Canary, Curtis, and Renee all joining forces, while Green Arrow is doing his own thing. So I think it's going to be pretty exciting. We're going to see where this goes from here. But I liked this episode a lot. I really enjoyed it. Of course, we had a slight backdrop of Christmas. Not a whole lot here, but their Christmas episode. Well, they had a Thanksgiving episode. That's why they couldn't put on too much for Christmas, I guess. I don't know. I'm going to give this one 4.5 stars out of 5. That's another A minus on episode of the week. But great episode here. I'm going to give it 4.5 stars out of 5 for Arrow, the mid-season finale. Okay. Let us keep trudging on here. We've got a double episode of Gotham for you here because last week we were doing the crossovers, didn't get a chance to do it, and we did the 2-hour episode of the 2-hour premiere of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. So, which I'm reminding you, we're no Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. this week. We're going to do Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. next week in a double bubble, just like we're doing here. Okay. We've got called Things That Go Boom. Um, is that this episode? No, I think I got the picture. I got the wrong picture up here. I think. Um, it probably could go for either one, but let me let me put the right picture up. I think this is the finale. This picture. I had another one prepared, so let me see. Great. Some of these pictures, the images don't look really that great because they're kind of digitized because I didn't spend a whole lot of time trying to yeah, I think this was the picture we're supposed to be using. Alrighty. Just give me one more second. Patient identification. Here we go. Alright. This was the one, Things That Go Boom. Okay. All right, so the way it starts here, Professor Pig is back. Oh goody. Oh joy. Professor Pig kills a guy with a record from an old-fashioned Victrola in Arkham Asylum. How's that for you? That's a good way to start a show, right? That's the way you started off. Um, Professor Pig supposedly has changed his look in from a crime doctor that Jim finds on his deathbed, so to speak. And apparently, there's a mystery over who he really is. He changed his appearance a couple of times already. Sophia wants to get with Jim, but Jim shuts her down. Um, Settling arguments with a riffraff in her club that she inherited from Cherry confronts Sophia, and she ends up owning up. This was kind of an interesting thing. She doesn't play the pretense too long that she was all along. Now she's giving up this innocent pretense and saying, yeah, she played him like a harp from hell. We always bring that up every week. A little bit out of place from to me. Seemed a little out of character for her. The Penguin has the dentist tortures Sophia, but she threatens his family and he lets her go. She's promptly kidnapped by Bab's gang. That's what I'm calling them from now on. This trio, and Zaz attacks them. Sophia goes back crying to Jim and tries to get him to go to war with the Penguin. Jim won't have any of it, but Jim confronts the Penguin, who agrees to let Sophia be sent into exile. Now, Lee confronts Samson, her rival, in the Narrows. Notice a pattern here. This is like everybody's confronting everybody else today on Gotham. Today on Gotham, more confrontations. Samson won't go for any deals, but he's got, he's got Narrow's lung or whatever that was she told him he had. That was pretty funny. And she comes back later on to, I don't know if she really poisoned him or trick poisoned him, but whatever the case, she got her way. Okay, so let me take a look now. Where are we? Um, I lost my train of thought with my notes. Okay, so the Penguin's little pal Martine. Let's get to that because that's what basically sets up this whole ending here. Martine gets kidnapped by Babs and the gang, led by Sophia. Now Sophia has come to them and she's in charge. So Sophia threatens Martine, and Oswald agrees to give up control of Gotham's underworld to her. Once Martine is safe in the car, however, Oswald blows it up, thus removing his one weakness, and the two go to war. Now, that was a pretty interesting development. I thought for sure that the Penguin really did blow up Martine because that seems like something he would do. That seems very much like him because, in all honesty, he would remove the only weakness he has. And Martine is really his only weakness now. Lee tells Ed he's not mental anymore, which has a terrible side effect of making Ed see the Riddler in the mirror again, and the Riddler is continually plaguing him to come back and be the dominant mental force in Ed's brain. Um, so in a surprise move, Penguin sends Martine away. There's the big, heart tugger where he was mad at Martine because Martine said he lied because to tell him and all that. Um, all right, so Sophia and the gang meet with Carmine, her father, Carmine Falcone, and Penguin is behind Carmine, and Carmine agrees to take Sophia away when a hit on the family kills Carmine and injures Sophia. This was an interesting change of a turn of events because we're all told that Carmine was dying, but this is probably the best way to put him out of the show. But I mean, I really like the actor that plays Carmine Falcone. I would have preferred they could have kept him on, and in the capacity they had him on, he didn't have to be a regular, but I would have preferred that they kept him alive. But unfortunately, nope. Harvey comes to the funeral, meets with Jim for the first time in a long time. Oswald um, makes some not so veiled threats to Sophia at the funeral. Oswald comes down to the station to get Sophia, the police station, but the cops bounce him. Now, this is the interesting thing. This is Yeah, I think, yeah, I should have switched to the next one, but this is the episode now, Queen Takes Night. If it, as if it means anything. This could have been a two-part finale anyway, but just to be on the up and up, this is where I should have changed the image that you're already seeing of the penguin, and this is why he's got that expression on his face of panic because, and I didn't see this coming either. Oswald for Martine's supposed death. Now, Sophia is trying to pin Martine's disappearance on Penguin because he had him blown up to show that he doesn't have any weaknesses anymore, which was a smart move for him. But now he's in jail because of it, and he can't prove otherwise, I suppose, right now, anyway, even though he came clean to Jim and told him that Martine is still alive, which was kind of, conceivably a dangerous thing to do for Martine because, they're going to use him as leverage against the Penguin. Okay, so meanwhile, we have the Bruce Wayne subplot. Do I have to go into the Bruce Wayne subplot because it's driving me nuts? I can't take it. I can't take it anymore. Oh God, it's so bad. But okay, so we got Bruce Wayne still acting like a little bleep. And he treats Alfred terribly in this episode. The episode starts off with him waking up between two chicks. And now you gotta remember, the kid is 15 years old. This is 15-year-old Bruce Wayne. This is not the adult Bruce Wayne, and they're already having him act like this, which is pretty embarrassing. Alfred has some heartfelt moments here. He tries to appeal to Bruce Wayne yet again to give up his hedonistic lifestyle and try to be the son that Thomas and Martha Wayne wanted him to be. Results in Bruce and Alfred having a fist fight. That's right, 15-year-old Bruce Wayne Alfred having a fist fight. They started off so good on this show this season. I don't know. I said to myself, will this be the first season that from beginning to end it was good? They really jumped the shark here with the Bruce and Alfred stuff. So anyhow, Alfred kicks Bruce's butt. Bruce goes off and gets papers drawn up and has Alfred fired and kicked out of Wayne Manor. To be continued next after the mid-season finale. I don't know exactly how they're going to resolve this. I imagine, of course, Bruce Wayne has to come to his senses eventually, but he's being a little twit right now and being a drinking and wenching and whatever else he's doing. I don't know. At 15 years old, they haven't said how old he is anyway. But if we're going by the timeline here, I think he's only probably about 15. Meanwhile, Tabitha kidnaps Butch and tries to beat some sense into him with everything but the kitchen sink. In fact, she should have used the kitchen sink. She probably couldn't hold it. It's too heavy. But so she beats him up with all the with everything but the kitchen sink. And she gives up and leaves, and then it seems it worked. It took effect. It penetrated Butch's thick skull, and he starts remembering that he's Butch and not Solomon Grundy. We only got the slightest glimpse of that, so I don't know how that's going to turn out. All right, so Jim confronts the Penguin, and he was supposed to send Sophia away, and the Penguin wasn't going to touch her, of course. So Sophia ends up admitting that she had Carmine killed, and she was behind Professor Pig. And Professor Pig shows up and she executes him too. Sophia's been a pretty good villain this season. I really like her. I thought she was pretty good, and the wheelchair gimmick was just a gimmick and this and that. But so she's behind killing her own father because he was in her way. This was pretty. This was there's some Michael Corleone stuff going on here. She didn't care who was in her way, who she had to deal with. She was going to get rid of him. Of course, her father was already dying as it is, I guess, made it a little bit easier, but, he gave her the back of his hand, too, before he went, the old buzzard. But, um, I don't know, so Jim takes the fall for her killing Professor Pig. I guess he's going to sort of take her, advice, which is to take the role of the police captain and still, play ball with her as the criminal underworld's leader since the Penguin is now in prison. So he takes the fall. Harvey turns in his badge. That was sad because we don't get enough of Harvey in the show anymore. He was the one fun element, and he's not really in it anymore. And now he's turning in his badge and gun under a gym anymore because of the shady aspects of how he got the job. So finally, we find out that Penguin is the next door neighbor to Jerome in Blackgate Prison, aka the Joker. This show's version of the Joker. So it looks like where they had a one-time partnership between the Penguin and Riddler before they went to war. Love with them. A crazy turn of events that hopefully is going to be forgotten soon. Um, Now they're going to have the Penguin and Joker be BFFs. It looks like they're going to have some kind of a fight or confrontation in the jail, and then they become friends. Judging by the next week's, the next season's coming attractions. Um, Also, Bruce burns the mask. He's still going to be a little twit and still be a little pain and not embrace his destiny. I guess this is what they think the reaction Batman would have if he actually finally broke down and killed somebody. Thank heavens he never killed anybody then in the comics or whatever, because if this is what happens to him, then I don't want to know. And also finally, Babs finally gets a better hairdo after all this. Thank God, she gets a better hairdo. All right, so let's see. I think I'll do them one at a time. Let's see. For things that go boom, I am gonna give that one 3.5 stars out of 5. That's 3.5 stars out of 5. I like the way he handled Martine in the situation, and he didn't really kill him, Penguin. He did a good job trying to protect his friend while, trying to eliminate his one weakness. Also, I think Queen Takes Night. I'm gonna give that one 2 stars out of 5. That's 2 stars out of 5. I don't know. I don't know. Something about it. It just didn't really jibe with me, but it wasn't bad. Certainly not as bad as the Professor Pig episodes. I think maybe I'll give it 2.5 stars out of 5. All right, 2.5 stars out of 5 for Queen Takes Night. But it's embarrassing. The Bruce Wayne stuff is really embarrassing and really holding the show down. Now I'm gonna go back to my original. I'm gonna go back to my original rating. 2 stars out of 5 for the season finale of Gotham. All right, so there you have it. That is all our season finales we have to offer. But we are not done yet because we still have The Gifted and MacGyver. So we are probably going to take this puppy all the way to 9 o'clock. It's already 8:30 here. Time. Well, it's 8:22 to be precise, but we are speaking figuratively. All right, that looks kind of blurry there. I hope you can see it there. But that is our image there for The Gifted for this episode. I've lost track. What, this is the 9th episode? I don't know. All right, so I'm just trying to retrieve my notes. All right, so all right, The Gifted this week. All right, let's see what turned out here. All right, Reed told Caitlin about his dad and the whole story and events of what happened last week. The telepath girl, what's her name? Amsna? Amasa? Amseth? I don't remember her name really, but she's pretty. She's right there on the screen right there. She wants to move on the Sentinel Services lab to get her loved ones out. Pressures the team into trying to get there and do this. Meanwhile, Andy digs into his grandparents' past and finds that they were in the Hellfire Club. The Hellfire Club. Remember that was going to be a TV show in its own right. I think they kind of melded that idea with this show. And Andy says something about the Hellfire Club was run out by the X-Men in. So that was pretty interesting to see the X-Men name you get name dropped here, and the Hellfire Club, because we really didn't get to see a good, you know, um, we got that in First Class, I guess, but I mean, I really like to see a good treatment of the X-Men versus the Hellfire Club. I mean, because the first class X-Men were like X-Men Light, you know what I mean? Although here it'd probably be the same thing. All right, so Polaris is having nightmares and she's afraid about the baby and the ongoing situation there. Polaris and Blink go undercover, which was pretty funny. That was good. They go undercover in a bar, and Polaris uses a spoon as brass knuckles. That was pretty cool. And of course, a Dreamer. I mean, did I say Blink? Yeah, Dreamer uses her powers to get whatever information she needs out of the guy. All right, so the kids test their powers of joint destruction when they link hands, and they sort of test use this power and to generate this power. It looks like the end of Star Trek: The Motion Picture when the Decker and Ilea merge scene happens, but in this case, their powers merge. Um, Mutant powers of destruction are a dangerous thing. You know, they could be. It's like a dangerous drug, and they really want to use these powers all the time. But you know, Reed was trying to tell Andy that's not really the greatest idea to try to manifest these powers if we don't know if you can control them. So, Asma, not Asma, Asmith, whatever her name is, the cute blonde chick. Um, she wants the Strucker kids to lead the raid on the lab, and the Strucker parents agree tentatively. John and Marcos miss Pulse. Pulse is sort of the morph of the show. Remember, morph. I did it all for you, buddy. And that's kind of what he is. He's like he went down and Wolverine just couldn't get over him. So Dreamer and Blink take the kids in to knock out security of the lab. It's a trap, as Admiral Akbar would say, and Blink goes down first, then Dreamer, and they try to like cover for the kids so the kids can get away, but the kids given no choice but to surrender because they're in the basement. And Andy says, "Well, if we use our powers of destruction, we're going to bring the whole building down." And so, hooray for gravity! And he remembers this law of gravity. So that's where we leave off. And next week is the mid-season finale for this show too. So we're really only down to Agents of Shield after next week. All the other shows are going on hiatus until January. But this was a good episode, a good setup to the it's a good penultimate episode. I'm gonna give this one 4.5 stars out of 5. That is a B plus for the Gifted this week. And we got our final show here of the night that we are going to check out. Let's see. We've got the most recent episode of MacGyver. This is not Fridays. This is last week's. So, because I didn't watch yesterday's yet. But this week on MacGyver, or last week on MacGyver, whichever way you want to look at it, a film in his dad's burned out house. He gives it to Jill, who is supposed to be this recurring character here. There's like this techie to try to find out what's on the film. Meanwhile, Riley tells Jack she's seeing her dad, played by Billy Baldwin. I told you I knew it was a Baldwin. He looks just like one of them, so I didn't know who it was, but yeah. Confronts him, of course, with the expected results. The same thing as Maddie confronting him last week. I really don't know where they're going with this. I think it looks like they want somebody wants to kill Billy Baldwin here, and it's probably going to cause some kind of friction between Riley and Jack. But yeah, it's I don't know. It is what it is. Bozer's still in boot camp. This was probably the most interesting part of this episode. I really like Bozer and what they're doing with him. Sort of toughening him up a little bit here emotionally. He's got his pretty partner still with him, and they're doing interrogation techniques and how one will break the other and how the other one is supposed to stay strong through the interrogation. So she brings up his baby brother's death by handgun. Now that's a story that belongs to MacGyver. So while I thought it was a good usage here, I think that that was something that was in MacGyver's life where he had a friend that got killed by a handgun, and that's why he swore off using handguns for the rest of his life, as it happened to him when he was a child. They gave that story to Bozer here. And since Bozer was MacGyver's friend, maybe that's the reason why MacGyver had that same reaction. He was the friend. Although it looks to me like Bozer was really young when this happened. This didn't look like they were teenagers like they were in the original MacGyver. So I don't know if this was the best use of that story or not. But oh yeah, the guy that plays Bozer, he's a good actor. He was crying like a baby, and he really he brought down the house. You know what I mean? He's a good actor, that kid. I mean, you wouldn't expect it because he's a comedian, but he's a good actor. All right, so Mac and Jack, this is what the main plot is. Mac and Jack steal a super deadly nerve gas, only to put it back because Maddie told them to, so that they could track it to the superior of the terrorist group. Cage gets captured, but Flim Flams the terrorist group. Mac creates a fake gas to bargain with. The plan goes south, and in a shootout, Mac is exposed to the gas. He gets locked in a room. He locks himself in a room, in other words, and he MacGyvers his way into burning the gas and getting treated at a hospital. It turns out that the film is old home movies, and Maddie's reflection is there, and this gives MacGyver the inkling that maybe Maddie knows something more about his father's disappearance than she's letting on. But I remember those days, that old-fashioned movie film that used to melt if you put it on the camera too long or whatever. The only thing is, though, is I don't think this MacGyver is old enough to remember that. He's only what, like 28 years old, and to be using that kind of camera, I mean, it gives me hope. I don't know that his family still had that camera from back in the day. I don't know. All right, so I'm gonna give this one. I'm gonna give this one 3.5 stars. I think 3.5 stars out of 5. It's another one. It's on the verge. See the 3.5 or 4. Now I'm gonna give it 4. I'm gonna give it 4 stars out of 5. I'm inconclusive today. 4 stars out of 5. I'm gonna give it a B minus. All right, so that will wrap up our show for. Yeah, we got it to about an hour and a half. It's a good amount of time to take on this week in comic book television. Want to give you a heads up on our next exciting, thrilling, action-packed episode. We're going to be doing a Torch News Roundup number 70, big 70 episode. We got a lot of things to talk about, a lot of breaking news in the past week. We've got Quentin Tarantino going to direct a Star Trek movie. What is that all about? How does that happen in the civilized world? We've got some more talk about the situation with Marvel and Fox. We also have some pretty in-depth stuff to talk about the Dark Phoenix movie that's coming out. I'm really looking forward to that, delving in and seeing some of the photos. That's going to be a lot of fun. Like I said, next week we're going to do a double episode of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. We'll have the season finale of The Gifted. We'll probably have some more MacGyver. So we got a few more things to talk about next week. But we've got a special episode of the show coming up next week where I'm going to do my The Last Jedi predictions. And we're going to talk about what you think The Last Jedi is going to be about, what's going to happen, what's not going to happen, what they're going to save for episode 9. We're going to do all that stuff next week. So until then, remember to like and subscribe and hit that subscribe button. Smash it. Smash that like button because I need all the help I can get. Check out some of the older episodes and make sure that you check out my Twitter page for the poll of the week question we still got going on. What is the Harley movie you're looking forward to the most? Check out my comic, The Adventures of Bullets Bourbon Private Eye. We're hopefully going to have a new issue out after the new year. We got to get to that promptly in 2018. But until then, until next time, this is Johnny Torch reminding you once again, keep the flame burning brightly, and I'll be with you again real soon.